cerimonial.
Vamos começar. Não, good morning, all.
Só um minutinho, então, Ramiro. Desculpe, só um minutinho. Just a minute. We have to launch the YouTube. Just a minute,
Okay.
please.
Okay.
Kleber, por favor, pode iniciar, então, a gravação. YouTube.
Já iniciamos a transmissão, Márcio.
Obrigado.
Okay. Good morning, all. My name is Ramiro Varhaftig. I'm the president of Araucária Foundation. And it is a great pleasure to be with you here to launch this technical mission between UK and Paraná State. As we are not in normal times, we decide to have some technical missions a little bit similar to missions that we have in normal times. We visit one country or region, and we know institutions, we know persons, and then we try to establish relations and connections. Yeah? And that's the purpose of our technical mission in the field of health tech between Araucária Foundation or Paraná State and UK, representing here by the British Council, the Newton Fund, and also the consulate in São Paulo. Thank you so much, Mr. Adam Peterson, honorary consulate in São Paulo. That's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much, Andrew Newton, from the British Council in Brazil, and I see here other persons from British Council that are used to work with us also. And thank you so much, Eliane Segatti. Eliane is a very important person in our relationship because she's trying always to push the relations between UK and Paraná State. And also thank you so much, Gisele Unuki. Gisele is representing now our Superintendent of Science, Technology, and Higher Education, Professor Aldo Bona. Professor Aldo Bona is not in a good condition of health today, and we wish that he's going to be in the next days also. Okay, for opening this session, this very important event promoted by Araucária Foundation and UK institutions, I'd like to ask your permission for highlight our past, present, and future cooperation. With the British Council as the FEMI Lab, the International Competition on Scientific Communication 2019, the Digital Links Paraná, which aims at creating, developing, and sharing the interinstitutional and international research activity among our university in Paraná and Ulster University in 2020. The Research Links Program to support the development of scientific workshops to promote the collaboration among researchers from both Paraná and UK, 2018-2019. The Internationalization Program, together with the ABROEM, the Brazilian Association of Municipal and State Universities, to support technical visits to strengthen the internationalization skills of our universities. The UK-Brazil English Collaboration Call, and Eliane is responsible for that, one of the responsible for that also, to develop a systematic investigation to improve the teaching and learning of English as a foreign language for benefit of the international partnerships. 2018, the call to be published in the coming days for the design of strategies on internationalization and language policies, aiming at supporting the sustainable strategies for the strengthening of the internationalization capacities together with the required language policies, 2021, and with the Newton Fund as the Newton International Fellowship Scheme Program in order to promote scientific collaboration among researchers from Paraná and UK for the development of projects with social impacts, 2020. the partnership with UK academies, called the Fellowships, Research, Mobility and Young Investigator, Award for UK Research in Brazil, supporting mobility of the British and Brazilian Paraná research to develop collaboration on both ways, 2018 to 2020. The Research Connect, a program which supported development of skills on scientific communication, 2018. And also, during this event, we, Araucária Foundation, we'd like to articulate some possible joint actions and articulate and discussing with CONFAP, a specific task force to common actions in order to foster the health area. We could work on building an alliance with the other foundations and the other states to provide a common cause for bids for financial support to researchers. And also a soft landing strategy based on a model we are also implementing with USA. By soft landing strategy, we mean a set of actions to help support the installations of new research or entrepreneurial projects of one party within the territory of the other party. Precisely, we want to help Brazilian startups to be connected with the UK innovation ecosystem, at the same time to help UK startups to be connected with the Brazilian and Latin American innovation ecosystems. To implement these actions, we rely on several research groups here in Paraná State, some incubators and accelerators established within our science, technology, innovation ecosystems, which comprise 7 state universities, 4 federal universities, 1 federal institute, and several other science and technology institutions. We rely on a set of around 20,000 PhDs within the state systems. Paraná State really has a very robust and consistent science technology system for, of course, the Brazilian patterns. Okay, thank you for much once more for your presence and attention. And we wish to have a good event. Thank you so much. Eliane, please.
Thank you so much, Ramiro. So good morning. On behalf of Paraná government, represented by Araucária Foundation, with the support of the Superintendence of Science, Technology and Higher Education, together with the British Embassy and the British Council, we welcome everyone to the Virtual Technical Vision, Araucária Foundation and United Kingdom Healthtech Cooperation. The mission aims at positioning the UK as a strategical partner for both Araucária Foundation and the key players in Paraná from the educational, innovation, and research fields on health tech, besides promoting joint cooperation among Araucária Foundation Paraná and British universities and research councils. Mr. Ramiro Harhaftish, President of Araucária Foundation, who has dedicated his career to the management of science, technology, and innovation, has already opened officially this event. From now on, I'd like to invite Ms. Gisele Onuki, who is representing the Superintendent of Science, Technology, and Higher Education, and who is currently the Coordinator of Higher Education. Thank you, Gisele, for being with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Eliane. Good morning for everybody. Thank you for having me here. And on behalf of the government of Paraná State and also on behalf of the Superintendents of Science, Technology and Higher Education, Professor Aldo Nelson Bona, I want to welcome all the participants of such an important event. In particular, we want to express our gratitude to the organization, organizing institutional representatives having on the Brazilian side, Professor Ramiro Warhafti, President of Araucária Foundation, and on the United Kingdom side, Adam Patterson, British Honourable Consul in the State of Paraná, and Andrew Newton, Director of the British Council in Brazil. Your team's effort to make this mission come true should be recognized and praised. It's an honor for us to welcome everybody on behalf of our state governor, Mr. Carlos Massa Ratinho Jr., who entrusts me with the mission of transmitting our interest in strengthening ever closer cooperation relations between the state of Paraná and the United Kingdom. We live in a world in which more and more cooperation effort must be undertaken as a way of building solutions in the face of the great challenges that arise, particularly in this moment when a pandemic challenges us to both reveal the meaning of our way of life and reflect upon the values in which our culture is built. If on the one hand, we cannot be physically together in the same space to hold debates. On the other hand, we get used to having great virtual meetings in which it becomes possible to gather more people with less impact of the economy and planet, building approaches and valuing synergies. This is the case of this mission that aims to promoting the exchange of information and the experience in relation to what our state are developing in terms of research and innovation in the health area. The event schedule makes it clear that there is much to be presented by our state parts, and therefore there are many initiatives that we can strengthen as we work together. An ecosystem that innovation in health is built with the evaluation of collaborative actions, and for researchology is essential. Hence the importance of the scheduled presentations. The state of Paraná is one that proportionally invests the most in science and technology in Brazil. We have a state network of 7 public universities, well distributed throughout the territory, maintaining which the resource of the society that pays its taxes and expected to return of its investment. These universities are among the best in the country and need to expand the international cooperation so that they can grow in quality and recognition outside the country. The United Kingdom is, for us, a strategic partner for both the quality of the science it develops and the importance of its universities. If collaboration and partnership are the watchwords of this moment, I must warmly thank Andrew Newton, Director of the British Council in Brazil, who made possible the straight dialogue with us to develop an agenda for joint collaboration projects in order to strengthen both internationalization and language policies together with our state universities and Paraná Speak Languages program. For all this reason, we are very happy to live this moment of exchange of experience around what we have done for innovation in health. May the debates promoted here bring us closer and closer together in favor of improving the quality of life of the people who live in our nations. So thank you very much, and I wish you all a great event.
Thank you so much, Gisele, for your words and for being with us. From now on, I'm proud to invite Mr. Adam Patterson, the British Honourable Consul in the state of Paraná, Curitiba. Adam, so the floor is yours. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Eliane. Bom dia to colleagues in Brazil. Hello to everyone taking part and tuning in. It's absolutely great to be here with you this morning. It's an excellent way to start the week in this hugely exciting UK Paraná bilateral healthcare cooperation seminar, especially with very British weather here in Curitiba this morning. Firstly, I would like to thank Senor Ramiro, the Foundation's president, for the opening, and all my fellow speakers and panelists this morning in this fantastic initiative by Fundação Araucária and Paraná State Government teams represented by Seti and Gisele and Andrew Newton, our brilliant British Council Director in Brazil. Huge hat tip as well to everyone who has worked in organizing this event behind the scenes, including but not limited to Larissa, Barbara, and Juliana from British Consular Education and Life Science teams, Vera in the British Council, as well as my good friend Eliane from the Fundação Araucária. I will be very brief here in my opening remarks because I, like everyone else tuning in, very excited to listen to our UK and Paraná experts in this hugely important and pertinent seminar. As other speakers have said, the current scenario has shown more than ever how cooperation on research and innovation is fundamental to overcome common challenges, especially in the health sector. I, for one, are extremely pleased and proud by the UK-Brazil partnership on vaccines, the positive results of which we are seeing all around us. So for me, this event ticks all the boxes, right? It enhances not only cooperation and bilateral conversations between key organizations, but it does so in such a highly important sector at a challenging time. The UK and Paraná have extensive historical links. Perhaps, in fact, it's the Brazilian state with the greatest historical connection with the UK. And through events like today's, this relationship is going from strength to strength. Indeed, I'm happy to announce that Paraná is a priority state for the British mission here. And moreover, education is a priority area for the British government in Brazil. We have been collaborating in several areas, including internationalization of higher education, research and innovation, English language and training, and education technology. Paraná is without doubt a leading educational player in Brazil. And at this intersection of technology, there are excellent examples of this cooperation going on all around us here in Paraná. We have Positiva Technology, the large listed Brazilian tech company working with the BBC Microbit. We have Brazilian unicorns from Curitiba opening offices in London, which is the case of eBank. So evidently, it's an exciting moment for these partnerships. This virtual mission is therefore a great opportunity to increase and strengthen the links between both countries in the health space. As we know, the British healthcare system, the NHS, inspired the creation of the Brazilian system SUS, and so many forms of collaboration emerge from this type of interaction. The UK is, of course, a huge player in healthcare innovation with more than 80 winners of the Nobel Prize throughout history, with multiple research and discoveries in bioscience, from penicillin to the discovery of DNA to the current COVID vaccine from Oxford University. Innovation in healthcare systems obviously need to reach those who need it the most, as well as ensuring collaboration of myriad actors in the system from the government, industry, and academic fields. Partnerships between those actors are key to advances in healthcare, and I'm very pleased to see this as the key focus in this virtual event. Now more than ever, these collaborations are vital. With this spirit, we aim to contribute to the healthcare development and collaboration between the UK and Brazil, more specifically in the state of Paraná, with partners such as the excellent Fundação Araucária. Very shortly, people tuning in will be able to listen to specialists on health innovation system in the UK, and also our local British Council and consulate teams are also attending the event, and I'm sure they will be very happy to chat to you if you're interested in learning more about solutions provided by the UK in this segment going forward. That being said, let us kick off today's event. Thank you once again, British Council and Fundação Araucária, for this partnership. Thank you everyone taking part. I wish everyone a great week of activities and a great week in general, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam. So thank you for your work and support. Thank you for developing such a great work, not just around Curitiba City, but all over our state, for joint cooperation together with the UK in several areas of knowledge. Thank you so much. Your efforts must be praised for all of us. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Andrew Newton, President of the British Council. So Mr. Andrew, be very welcome.
Thank you very much, Eliane, Professor Eliane. Good morning, everyone. Greetings from a very British weather, São Paulo as well. It's a friozinho here, so I can't imagine it must be slightly colder where you are. But first of all, I'd like to also just say the British Council, as you know, is an organization of partnership. So it's very important to acknowledge that we would not exist without the partners and the strong partners that we have in Brazil, and particularly in the state of Paraná. So thank you very much to Professor Warhaftig Foundation for your ongoing partnership, also to Seti and Professor Eliani, who's been really driving a lot of the innovation and research throughout the whole of state of Paraná. So big thank you also to the government for its also proactiveness in terms of our work in education over the years, because I only arrived in Brazil 8 months ago during the middle of the pandemic. And of course, in my role, is to build upon the work that has been gone on before. So it's important to highlight the amount of researchers, over 1,000, 1,100 researchers in the state of Paraná, 46 UK, Brazilian higher education partnerships have been developed as a result of the different programs that we had. And most importantly, then it's around 490 tertiary leaders who are then being able to take forward into the future all the learnings and collaboration and that idea of knowledge exchange. And that is really important as the foundation of our work in education around higher education partnerships and increasing the amount of research and particularly in innovation, building upon the work that's been done in the Newton Fund and the collaborations and opportunities that has provided. As you know, as we all know, during the pandemic, that science has become particularly into the spotlight more than ever before in our world's history. And therefore, it is an opportunity for us to share knowledge, exchange ideas, and build trust and understanding between Brazil and the UK through science, but also be able to share that research and innovation to the world. So it's very important as part of that, that the British Council is interested in working in the state of Paraná to build upon the foundations that I've just talked about. And I think it's also interesting to highlight from my own personal perspective that this is the first virtual mission that I have had in Brazil. It is unfortunate, of course, I would have liked to have done it personally in person as well and gone to the state of Paraná, but I think this virtual way also brings more opportunity for discussion and more people together, given the logistics sometimes involved with an in-person event. So thank you to all who've made the time in coming here on this Monday morning and also throughout the coming week. So education, innovation, and research is very much a heart of our partnership that we want to increase. Also, I'd like to highlight that we found through our own research and analysis that we want to provide more opportunities for women, particularly in education and research and science. We're finding that, if we look at the highest echelons of research and science, that for Nobel Peace Prize winners, the Nobel Prize winners in science, that the disproportionate representation, as we want to be able to increase those opportunities for women researchers in the higher levels of academia. Of course, as part of that, also building the new generation of scientists, and that is through STEM programs, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, to build that next generation. I know that Professor Barhafti, he actually highlighted FameLab, which is a science communication event. We actually have a climate version this year, which focuses on climate science, around trusting climate science, because as you know, the UK is holding COP26 in Glasgow this year. So it's also about looking at science and innovation through the lens of climate, another real common emergency globally that we can come together and develop research partnerships around. So thinking about STEM education, building upon technology, innovation, and research in that area. I'd also like to just highlight the other area that Professor Vahavci touched upon, which was English. I was at a recent event where it highlighted that 80% of research papers published internationally are in English. So there is a challenge, of course, to continue to develop English language for researchers, academic writing, and the approaches to doing something in another language. Of course, I'm learning Portuguese, so I understand this challenge the other way in terms of technical writing and a technical conversation, but also presenting as well. And there's quite a different skill set alongside the language that is required. and that is often alongside cultural communication. So in English also that we want to build upon the work that we've been doing, particularly in higher academic institutions, to be able to further that partnership as well. So I hope that through this week that we'll be able to come to some further consensus and opportunity around science and innovation and higher education research, that lens of internationalization for us all, and of course, coupled with that, the requirements and opportunity that presents itself in the English language as well in academia. So thank you very much to all of you again. A special thank you again to Professor Eliani for bringing this together. And of course, my HMG network colleagues, in particularly Adam, who is an absolute superstar in representing not just the UK, but the state of Paraná. So thank you very much as well, Adam, and I look forward to a great week.
Thank you, Mr. Andrew. So the British Council is for sure one of our key partners for Araucária Foundation. So I'd like to thank you, Vera Oliveira, and all your team for the open and the ongoing dialogue to strengthen the partnership on the benefit of our community. Thank you so much. For the first session today, Innovation System and Environment on Health in Paraná and the United Kingdom, I'm proud to invite Dr. Jorge Edson Ribeiro, who will lecture about the Health and Innovation System in Paraná. So Dr. Ribeiro, the floor is yours.
Jorge, está desligado o microfone. O microfone está desligado. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I'd like to share my screen. Let me see. Okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. Good.
It's okay.
Good. Let me start the presentation then. Okay, thank you very much then for the invitation to talk at this mission and present a very brief outline of the Brazilian and Paraná health system and of our system of innovation. So the objective of this talk will be a very, very brief overview of the healthcare system of Paraná. So we will have to be very brief about that because it's a complicated thing. But as you know, the health system of Paraná is an instance only of the Brazilian health system, and therefore we will need to touch on that. So higher education infrastructure in health area is very important in any kind of collaboration for the development of innovation policies. And then the structure of support and innovation that we have here in the state of Paraná. So many people don't know where we are. So we are in the south of Brazil here. We are a very, very strategically located state in Brazil, because we make we have borders with Paraguay and Argentina, so we are usually called the doorway to the Mercosur, which makes this state a very attractive location for foreign businesses and especially business and technology, as I will show you further, because of our infrastructure. So here are some numbers on the Paraná demographics. So we have a population of a little more than 11 million. So it's a bit more than that now. So about 11,500. It's not a very overcrowded place. So we have a nice density, and we have mainly urban population. So we are city dwellers at this point. This state was one of the most well-known agricultural state in the country. Now, with the increasing mechanization of agriculture, population became urban, and we are dwelling mostly in cities. So Paraná is the 6th of Brazilian states in population. And we have a health system that is, of course, dependent on the Brazilian health system. So the Brazilian Constitution of 1988 defined health as a universal right and state responsibility. So this was a very marking point in the Constitution, and it also makes us the first country over 200 million people to have a universal health system. So after the Constitution was promulgated in 1990, we created the Brazilian Unified Health System, which is called SUS. This system is mainly say a universal, free for all, an equanimous system, which means that everybody should be receiving the same treatment, independent of, race or social and economical status. The Brazilian unified system was in part inspired by the NHS. So we have a lot of common in this system. It is structured in layers. So there is a federal and state and a city structure. These structures are ruled by councils, which have oh, sorry. So these councils have participation of both the users and the providers, and also a participation of managers. The system is financed partly by the federal government, and there is a percent of the state revenue which is destined to health, and part by the state and the cities. In the state of Paraná, there is the percent is 12%, and in the cities it is 15% participation. As we had first a system which was mainly private and which had I'm sorry about this. So previously to the SUS, we had a system which was mainly linked to the previdentiary system, so to the pension funds, and this system is was based on the state buying services from the private sector. Now, this system actually wasn't cancelled. When the SUS was formed, the system remained, and we have now actually a mixed system between which uses public services and which is to buy services from the private sector. So we have a public health system which is free and have universal access. And this public health system also buys services from the private sector. And we have also a private, healthcare, a supplemental healthcare, which is has a private access, but only to beneficiaries. It's a kind of medical insurance. These are the three components of the Brazilian system now. The public health system is responsible for 75% of this of the medical services, and it is responsible for 150 million people in this sector. The others are attended by supplementary healthcare, which is also government controlled, and the private healthcare that provides access by direct payment of services to healthcare providers. And this is the system that is in place here in Paraná. So in Paraná, we have this infrastructure, which is partly public and partly private. Actually, when the SUS was created, it wasn't created like the NHS. It was actually it was inspired by the NHS, but it didn't actually have the financing, structure to build a proper system, a public system. So we actually buy services from hospitals, and we have also this public system. In Paraná, we have 582 hospitals, mainly private. We have 5 public university hospitals. These are hospitals who are responsible for high complexity, and 24 state-owned hospitals. We have 482 basic units. These basic units are the points of entry for the SUS. It's corresponding to the GP, roughly speaking. It is corresponding to the GPs, the point of entrance. And the rest, the 332 UPAs, ready attendance units. We have in the state about 31,000 physicians, 18,000 or 19,000 almost specialists, and the others are generalists. So I'm a bit, there are of course many others service providers in the health area, but I'm kind of biased to physicians because of my formation. So, and we have 12,790 health-related companies, which are mostly small clinics and laboratories. So the next point that I'd like to touch is the health education in Paraná. Health education is a very important sector in the state. We have 7 state universities. It was already told you by the representative of the state government. We have 4 federal universities and 5 big private universities. Besides that, we have more than 100 university centers and isolated university units and isolated colleges. As for medical schools, we have 23 medical schools. 9 are public. They are from the state universities and from federal universities, and 14 are private. So these maps show the distribution of the university campi in the state territory. Mainly the state universities, you can see it's widespread over the territory. They are almost all of them are multi-campi. The main campus is situated usually in one of the pole cities, and the other campuses are staying around. The federal universities are also multi-campi, and most of them, and they are also widely distributed. I have to stress that the Federal University of Paraná is the first university in Brazil, so it was a pioneering institution. We have a lot of institutional support for health innovation in the state. Mainly, they are represented by, the Araucária Foundation as Seti. Seti is the state of Paraná institution. Araucária is, as you know, the host of this mission, and it's a private foundation, but with heavy participation of the states. And we are here have the TechPar, which is Technological Institute in Paraná, which belongs to the government. Superintendência is an institute that takes care of the technological parks. And we also have SEBRAE, which is a federal government funded institution for support of small business. So as far as technological parks are concerned, we will have a talk in the Wednesday's section. We have 15 parks. 3 are specific in the health area, and they are the TechPar Health Park, Biopark, and Genoma Valley. They will be talking, so you have more information on that. We have a lot of incubators and accelerators in the state, and we have also startup support from Araucária, Seti, and Celepar, which is our information company. So here it comes, we come to the Araucária priorities and health tech. So Araucária is a very important institution for the support of science and technology in Paraná. It is at this point structuring the research in new concepts and innovative concepts, mainly the concept of NAPIs, which is are the new arrangements of research and innovations. These are interinstitutional, multi-site, and multi-sector structures, which will be presented to you by Marcus Espinoza in a further section. And many of these NAPIs will be presenting tomorrow also. So we have horizontal definitions by the Araucária. These horizontal definitions are mainly digital transformation and focus on digital transformation and on sustainable projects. So the main verticals in this area of health techs are nowadays artificial intelligence, genomics, bioinformatics, IoT, and medical software. All this, or most of these topics will be covered tomorrow in our next session. So this is mainly the outline I'd like to make of the system. And I'm sorry about my very bad presentation, but I hope that main information on our system was given. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Well, I have to. Well.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Ribeiro. For sure, it's a great contribution, your lecture, about this overview about our healthcare system in Paraná. So now I'd like to invite, and I'm very proud to invite Zahid Latif from Life Science Consultant Innovation Specialist from the Life Science Organization UK Department for International Trade. So thank you very much, Mr. Latif, for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you very much. I'm just going to plug in my headphones to see. Can you still hear? Okay. Yes. Okay. I see Eliana nodding up and down, so she must be able to hear me. And if Juliana can put up my slides for me, that would be very useful.
Yeah, we can see your sharing slides. Professor Jorge.
Yes.
Dr. Jorge, I think you need. Okay, no, thank you so much for stopping sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Okay, and Juliana's putting up my slides for me.
Okay, good. Now it's on. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you today. When Juliana asked me to give a presentation on the health innovation ecosystem within the UK, it's quite a difficult task, because it's what you're trying to do is condense maybe 120 years worth of activity within the health research ecosystem in the UK into a short slide deck. So hopefully I will have given you an overview of what the life sciences health innovation ecosystem within the UK is like. You will receive further information from many colleagues in other roundtables later in the week. So anything that I don't cover, I'm sure they will be able to do that. Could I have my next slide, please, Juliana? And with that 120 or so years, I think sometimes people even go back even further with regards to the scientific discoveries that have been made in the UK. The UK has always been at the forefront of medical research, and has also been very good at historically being able to turn that medical research into clinical practice and into commercial opportunities. I think the challenge that we face, and it was mentioned in the previous speaker slides as well, is how do you turn that research into future wealth creating opportunities. And it takes a long time within the life sciences healthcare space to be able to do that. So if you look at the journey of the discovery, for example, of the structure of DNA, that happened in 1962 with Watson and Crick and Rosalind Franklin developing the structure for DNA, but actually you only saw the real implementation of their understanding and it affecting clinical practice into the 2000s. So sometimes discovering something very early on takes a long time to get into clinical practice, but also to be able to be commercialized as well, just because the technology is not there, or actually it's about marrying up the science to what the clinical questions are. And if you look at the journey that the UK has been on, whether it's been the discovery of antibiotics and penicillin or the structure of DNA, it's always been about long-term investment and long-term engagement with the science. And this slide just gives you an overview of some of the sort of the key activities that not just happen within the research space, but also within the health space. So in 1999, you had the establishment of the National Institute of Health and Care Excellence, because they recognized the fact that while there was a lot of interesting medical research and medical products on the market, that actually for a universal healthcare system that is the National Health Service within the UK, not everything is affordable. And I think that's a really interesting dynamic between the health service and the companies, because the companies will always say, buy our new innovative product, it's going to be so much better for you. But actually the health service turning that around back to the companies and saying, how much better is it going to be? Because the health service budget is not a bottomless pit. It can't keep paying over and over for new innovation. It's about delivering value to patients. And really that sort of drives the cycle between improvements in the science, improvements in medical products, improvements in medical practice, and then feeding back to the science. Because it's only through having that dialogue about what is affordable and what is not affordable will real innovation come forward. Because we could probably see many treatments out there that deliver very poor benefits, charging very high amounts of money, but it's predicated on the hope that it might give you an extra 3 months of life. How is a government and how is the healthcare system going to be able to afford to pay for something like that in an equitable manner? So those are the key challenges that exist within the healthcare and the life sciences sector. And the UK has made a specific commitment to increasing R&D government investment into that space to help try and move the agenda on, because otherwise you end up getting into a standoff between the companies who are trying to develop new products but not having a market, and the market turning around and saying, well, actually, we can't afford this. How do we make it cheaper? How do we make it more accessible? And the only way that you can intervene into that sort of space is to try and break that deadlock. So that's the past, present, and future, and a real summary of the UK life sciences market dynamics, for want of a better phrase. Could I get the next slide, please, please, Juliana? So within the UK life sciences ecosystem, I think there's three key elements of research that occur within this space. There's the academic research that happens within the universities, and the UK has a world-class, world-leading research base across numerous sectors, whether it's healthcare and life sciences, whether it's engineering, whether it's maths and artificial intelligence. And there are around 130 to 150, depending on how you count them, universities that play within that are research active within that space. Secondly, within the clinical space, within the health system, the UK government also supports the hospitals and the clinicians to undertake research as well. So there's a sizable investment in clinical research that happens in hospitals. Now, many of the hospitals are aligned to a university, but the key part of the investment that's made there is to support the clinical researchers, because many of the discoveries happen at the clinic and at the interface between the patient and the biology. So therefore, you have to have that sort of clinical research that is supported and has been supported for the best part of 25 years through the National Institute for Health Research in the UK. And then finally, you have the business environment and the businesses that are investing substantially in medical research as well. The UK's commercial sector goes back all the way to the turn of the late 19th, early 20th century, when the chemicals industry really started, because the chemicals industry were producing industrial dyes and then finding that they were able to synthesize chemicals that would have some sort of biological effect. So those industries have become what are the modern pharmaceutical sector in the UK. Now, the challenge for these individual sectors has always been academia has been looking for funding for the latest pet project, business being seen as a way to provide funding for academic research, but businesses increasingly find it more and more difficult to commercialize products because of the long time it takes to get a product to market. And within the middle of that is the clinical space, because as well as doing the clinical research, the clinicians are also the people that will be the advocates or the buyers of these products in the healthcare system. So you have to have all three aspects of this working together. And it's this key bit about the partnership working, which is the number one point here, which is how the UK has been able to address key productivity challenges for research within the UK. The UK has historically been very good at inventing products and in the early stages commercializing, but since the 70s or 80s, the health system, the industrial space within the UK has been very risk averse, and we haven't seen the emergence of biotech companies here in the UK until the phenomenon emerged in America, where there was more venture capital for investing in startups. Most academics would license their technology to a large pharma company rather than look to establish a business themselves. So to create that new environment where risk can be taken, new companies can emerge, new technologies could be developed, requires partnership working, not just between the academia, business and clinical, but people who are going to invest in that. And in order to drive that investment or attract that investment into that cutting edge, high risk, high reward environment, the UK government has, over the last 20, 30 years or so, been investing in long-term industrial strategy investments, whether it's for to support academic spin-outs or to support technology development that would eventually lead to new products, new services, and new industries. Can I have the next slide, please, Juliana? And what I want to do, I'm not going to go through all the details on all these slides, but I wanted to give you a flavour and overview of what the sectors are like. So the UK life sciences sector, particularly the industrial sector, is a big employer of the UK. If you see, UK population is about 66 million people. 85% of them are served by the National Health Service. The health service itself has substantial engagement with individuals, where probably 1.4 million people are seen by the NHS every day. So that sort of huge sort of size and scale of interaction means there are real opportunities for innovation. And similarly, the life sciences sector itself employs about 250,000 people within the UK. Just in the life sciences space alone, there's about 5,800 businesses. And the UK has always punched above its weight with regards to the quality of the science, quality of research that's been published. Could you go to the next slide, please, Juliana? And that science base has always been the crucial starting point, because the investment in that gives you the long-term investment in the people and the staff that are going to be either working in the hospitals or working in the companies. And the UK, as I said, the oldest university, Oxford University, was from the 11th century. So there's been a long track record in them undertaking academic research. But 4 of the top 10 universities in the UK are, or globally, are leaders in clinical and health sciences. And 2 of the top 3 globally are UK universities in the life sciences space. So it gives you an indication of just the quality of the science that exists within the UK. Next slide, please, Juliana. And how do you direct science? How do you get science to point in the right direction? Over the last 5 years, the science funding landscape within the UK has changed, and looking to become more coordinated and more organised by way of funding and supporting the science to address key challenges, whether they're societal challenges, whether they're global challenges, predominantly focused around helping support the UK the science space to go forward, but linking it more closely to businesses as well. So you'll be hearing from organisations later this week that are aligned to the research councils, but also what I wanted to highlight was the bottom middle organisation, Innovate UK, which is actually focused on businesses. It works with businesses in order to support those businesses to invest in R&D. And the premise for creation of UK research and innovation, this sort of coming together of a family of organisations, is to coordinate and better take advantage of the opportunities that exist in the science space and support commercialisation and exploitation of the science that's being developed. Because the UK, as I said, historically has been very good at undertaking the basic sciences, the basic invention part, but how do you exploit it? How do you use it? How do you get it into the hands of patients? How do you get it in the hands of doctors? And how do you create economic value from that? And that is something that the government has been spending a lot of time thinking about to try and create that sort of ecosystem and pull through of ideas from the university base. Juliana, next slide, please. And the key part, this pull part, is very much about how do you get products to patients, but also how do you get the businesses incentivized to be able to undertake this risky research and development. And the UK has spent has a good environment, a better environment for development of new intellectual property. They've created the right sort of environment to enable biotechs to exist and thrive, and to attract private sector investment, because it's not just about the companies themselves using their revenues, it's about having the venture capital investors coming in willing to take a bigger risk than many of these companies will be in order to progress the science and unlock new opportunities. So as much as it is about the science, it's also about the people, but it's also about the investment and having access to capital. And so it's not just about science push. It's not about funding the basic science and hoping it's going to be exploited. It's also about creating the right environment where investors are willing to pull some of those ideas out of universities and out of the hospitals, and to support commercialization. Next slide, please, Juliana. Now, I wanted to cover off some of the aspects of one particular organisation, which is Innovate UK, which is the UK's innovation agency. And we talk about research, but what does innovation mean? It's very much about how do you exploit the outcomes, exploit that science, and create technologies, products, services that are really how those products deliver benefits, whether it's economic benefits or social benefits to people or to patients. Innovate UK is an organisation I worked for many years, and it's predominantly focused around enabling access to finance, whether that's through grant funding or loan funding. Can we go to the next slide, please? But it's not just about access to finance alone. And you may have heard about these things called catapults. The UK established in 2011 a network of centres that were there to address that translational gap of how do you take an idea and how do you make it more robust so that it can be commercialised And how do you create the right sort of technologies that mean that it's not just about doing it once, but how do you do it sustainably? And this isn't something that universities are very used to, and hospitals aren't used to it either, because universities are very good at creating the underpinning science. But how do you turn that science into a regulated medical product? And that's a particular issue for new technologies like artificial intelligence, where the regulatory processes aren't very well known, or they haven't been established, because this is all new technology. The regulators don't really understand how to regulate that technology. So the Catapult Centres are being established to support companies and support scientists make their ideas more robust, so that they can stand the test of becoming commercialized or becoming exploited. Next slide, please, Juliana. And within that network, there are a number that are relevant to the health innovation space, whether it's manufacturing for new medical products or medical devices, or the next slide, please, Juliana, or whether it's in cell and gene therapy, where the scientists had discovered very novel science and novel ways of being able to treat patients, and had early initial clinical signals for cell and gene therapies, but they didn't really know how to turn that into a commercializable product, into a product that was safe and effective, and into something that could be made at scale. So the cell and gene therapy catapult was set up to take advantage, to support the companies and support the scientists to be able to address those challenges. And if you're able to, the premise for the Catapult Centres is that they're learning centres. They help teach people how to do things, and it reduces the price at which the price you're paying at which to learn how to do something, but also you learn what goes wrong. And the important part for much of this is that for venture capital investors, they don't want to spend their money on something that is going to go wrong, and that's poor risk for them. But if there's a way to be able to say to them, look, we know how to do something, we know how to manufacture cell and gene therapies, we know what goes wrong if how not to manufacture cell and gene therapies, because these are all the pitfalls that you need to avoid. That's valuable insight and is a really efficient way for those investors to use their money, knowing that it's focused on product development and moving forward, rather than learning something that is not going to add value if that company folds. Next slide, please, Juliana. And as I said, we've got Catapult Centres around medicines manufacturing, around cell and gene therapy, and also drug discovery as well. And these centres are there. They're not academic centres. They're independent entities that operate between that space, between academia and industry. And they are not for profit. They're there to support the emergence and support for a sector in the UK. Next slide, please. Now, I mentioned the NHS and how many people go visit the NHS every day. The NHS research infrastructure is one of the key reasons why the UK is at the forefront of clinical research globally. It's not just about the fact that you have 66 million people all coming to one particular health service. While the NHS is one big funder, underneath that is 400 individual organisations who are all part of the NHS. And so the challenges are, how do you make that, or the opportunity is you have that organisation there that can provide real scale of data, of patient access, and a place to test whether your product is going to work at a commercial scale. And the NIHR, the National Institute for Health Research, is the largest funder of health research in the UK, and that's specifically health research as opposed to scientific research that might come from the Medical Research Council. So health research is predominantly done within a hospital setting, or with hospital clinicians in the lead. And so their focus is very much along the lines of what impact is it going to have on patients, patient outcomes, and the patient journey in and around receiving beneficial treatment. that environment is for health research within the hospitals is what is attracting over 1,500 commercial contract research studies in the UK. And many contract research organizations work with the NIHR in order to establish their clinical trials, but also access patients. Next slide, please. And if you just look, this is just within the health research ecosystem. This is not the academic research space. The support that the NIHR provides the health research clinicians to either undertake invention and support early stage clinical research, or to evaluate. And evaluation is really key, because unless you can understand whether your product is going to deliver some form of benefit to the patients, there isn't any point in the NHS trying to buy it. And so that feeds into the late phase clinical research and the adoption space, because key decisions are made by the NHS about what products to buy and what not to buy, and they're key signals that other countries around the world look at in order to know whether the product is going to deliver not just benefit to patients, but a cost-effective way. And the NHS is one of those organisations which puts all that information out in the public domain, so other countries are able to look at it and make their own assessments as to whether, you know, if the NHS is buying it, then there must be something good in this, or there must be some reason why the NHS has decided to buy it. There are high hurdles to getting a product procured by the NHS into the clinic, but if you do, then it really means that you are delivering specific, very, very high benefits to patients. Next slide, please. And the next slide again. So I highlighted this partnership working, and really the key part here is there's partnership working happening all the time, whether it's between academia, business, academia, the clinical space, or between businesses and the NHS. But sometimes partnership working is needed where government gets involved, and the government has identified a number of priorities that are strategically important. And it's something that is of the size and scale that no individual hospital, no individual country is going to be able to, no individual company is going to be able to address. And really, that size and scale means that if you're able to engage in that research, if you're able to benefit from that research, then you will have an opportunity to develop something that is truly world class and could be adopted in as clinical practice around the world. So the UK back in 2010 kicked off the 100,000 Genomes project, which was focused around how do you use whole genome sequencing in clinical practice. And whole genome sequencing had only been a relatively new technology, still very expensive. It hadn't got down to the price of £1,000 a genome, although there was much hype about that being the target price point at which whole genome sequencing would work. But what they needed to do was not just do the research and get 100,000 samples and sequencing them. What they wanted to do was also turn that into standard clinical practice. So it probably took a lot longer than it would have done if it was just a straight, here, sequence 100,000 samples. What they wanted to do was to embed that into the health service, to make genome sequencing a normal part of clinical practice. And we're seeing that now, 11 years later, where the NHS is using genome sequencing in a more routine way, either for rare diseases or for treatment of cancer. And that's the sort of the big research projects where government gets involved, where there needs to be a significant amount of coordination, but also significant investments into big research projects. It's a bit like the world of physics. Physics is not, if you look at the Large Hadron Collider and the physics experiments, there are thousands and thousands of scientists all working together to one cause. And I think that's where we're coming to with regards to healthcare research. Healthcare innovation is large experiments with big teams. Next slide, please, Juliana. And the UK government has spent over the last 7 years, but probably even longer if you look into the life sciences strategy that they developed, to focus around how do you make the UK the best place in which to invest in R&D, but also to commercialise R&D as well. And so the UK government has, through the research councils and UKRI, committed to the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund with key challenges to support the next generation of healthcare. Next slide. And there were 3 big themes that emerged out of that work. One was around medicines manufacturing. So there was 188 million pounds worth of investment in medicines manufacturing technologies. And bear in mind, this was pre-COVID pandemic. So they were looking to establish new ways of manufacturing for medicines. Particularly if you looked at some of the cell and gene therapies, there were key opportunities there for creating infrastructure to support manufacturing in that space. Next slide, please, Juliana. Secondly, around data and diagnosis. Again, the premise is that the products, many of the medical products, many of the therapeutics are very expensive. How do you target that treatment to the right patient at the right time? And so there's been sizable government investment into research and collaboration between industry, academia, and the clinical space around precision medicine. How do you make sure that the systems are in place, but also the data and the diagnostics and the therapeutics all work together in order to get the right treatment to the right patient? Next slide, please, Juliana. And then finally, I mean, this is one of the ones where I think is one of the most challenging ones of all: healthy aging. How do you support an aging demographic? How do you help people live independently longer? And that's not necessarily just a medical problem. That is very much about lifestyle. It's about financial planning. How do people plan for their older age? How do they make decisions about what sort of life that they want to live as they're getting older? So it's we talk about industrial strategy. These are very much societal challenges as well. Next slide, please, Juliana. Now, I wanted to end off with regards to the how all this investment has been pivoted or is repositioned around the pandemic. And I think the interesting thing is been the UK's response to COVID-19. Now, in many ways, the UK has been on the back foot with regards to understanding the way that COVID has spread and has been a challenge for managing the outbreak, particularly around testing and for lockdowns. So from a public health perspective, the UK is not been particularly great. But if you look at the investment around medicines manufacturing and around vaccines and around not just in the diagnostic space, but in the ability to sequence variants, the UK has been really at the forefront in this. And you'll have seen the number of with regards to the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, how quickly that was able to come to market, but also how the UK was able to support other vaccine manufacturers around the world by making forward procurement decisions around, if the vaccine works, then we will buy it, but also supporting the clinical trials associated with them. So that's been a real positive. The recovery trial, which has been the largest largest and quickest recruiting one of the quickest recruiting clinical trials, led to a key identification of therapeutics such as dexamethasone for helping people who are suffering from COVID and helping them survive. And if you go to the next slide, please, Juliana, and the next one. And the variant sequencing, because there was a real understanding amongst the science and clinical community that while there is a virus outbreak, that virus will mutate. And the infrastructure that went into creating the Genomics England 100,000 genomes capability is what was pivoted around creating the service and the system to undertake variant sequencing. And so the team of 4 public health agencies, the Sanger Institute, which is where the Genomics England program has been established, 12 academic institutions and a number of hospitals all came together to create a project that was there to undertake this sequencing of the variants. And so a lot of the variant understanding and tracking that is being looked at globally started off with the COG program, which is at March 2021, and these numbers are out today, had sequenced 340,000 virus sequences to establish how the pandemic was spreading, but also how it was evolving and the variants that were emerging. Next slide, please. And that, I think, hopefully covers everything that will give you a taste of the UK infrastructure and the UK policies associated with how do you try to build collaborations between academia, business, and the health service. It's not perfect. No system ever is, and it's very much very different from what you would see in, say, the US or in other European countries. But it's a system that works for the UK, and has been very good. The long-term investment has been really valuable in being able to re-attract private investment back into the UK from venture capitalists. And so some of the really exciting areas for health research and for new product development that you'll have seen, coming together with regards to cell and gene therapy or artificial intelligence, really provide a valuable resource for how healthcare could be delivered going forward. Thank you very much for that. I think I'm going to stop talking there.
Okay, so thank you so much, Latif, for such a rich overview for us to better know and understand the healthcare system and organizations that support the development of both research and innovation in the United Kingdom, and made us reflect upon the challenges that we can overcome together. From now on, we'd like to open for questions. So please, you could write your questions here for us to interact with both lectures. Questions and comments, of course.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Latif. That's a very well structured presentation that you made us. Thank you so much. Of course, UK is a very important reference for Brazil in terms of health tech, same because our system, our unified system in Brazil had the support in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 90s with the NHS. But I think we have also a very important initiative here. We have an initiative that we call the Genoma Valley. Genoma Valley. That's the Genoma Valley is an important initiative that we have in the whole system. We are beginning to structure what we call the Genoma Valley, and I think that related to the genomic areas, not also in health but in agriculture. We have a very important and consistent research system. And that's a point that in the future we can try to work together also. And I think that could be very important.
Yeah, I think the challenge always has been the different cultures between research and industry within the universities, but also within clinical practice as well. I mean, many of the the clinical researchers are active doctors, or active physicians or surgeons that are working, seeing patients on a day-to-day basis. And the important part is that they recognize the value of research to their day-to-day clinical practice, but also for their development going forward as well. And I think it's always a challenge to bring teams together because they are driven by different motivations. I think some of the key aspects around delivery of product to patients, delivery of products that are scalable and can be delivered at an effective price is something that many of the different partners, whether it's academia or industry or in the health service, all recognize collectively now. They all know that there isn't any point in developing a new product if you can't afford to deliver it to patients. And I think that's been really valuable for the UK, and it's something that has taken a few years for everybody to get onto the same page, but they recognize it now because we only have one health system or one health service, and everybody recognizes the value of it.
Okay.
So now we have Luis Marcus Espinoza. Yes, he's the scientific and innovation director of Fundação Araucária Foundation. So, Marcio.
Well, good morning again, and Mr. Said, thanks so much for your presentation, Mr. Latif. It's very impressive, your system, and well, we see maybe possible to cooperation as far as a kind of soft landing strategy is concerned. So we would like to go further on this discussion, not today, but we could start today, okay? And I think that the challenge we have, the first one is just that one you just talk is put the different teams together. Is always a challenge. We are in a different moment with your science, technology, and innovation system. We are starting to organize. Genomic issues is clearly for us a very highlight moment for us. So we'd like to explore or to discuss further in this week this point with you if you are available. Thanks so much.
So thank you for that. I'm sure Juliana will be able to pull in some of the team members as well that can support that conversation. I think if you look at it from a UK perspective, there's different aspects to this. So I've worked with a company that's in the genomics data informatics space where they provide the support. Anybody can do genome sequencing to some extent. You can do that in your laboratory, but how do you turn that from the sequence into something that you can clinically action? And I think that's the challenge for many of these new technologies, and companies want to learn and understand how the dynamics within the Brazilian healthcare system work, so that they can then work with the teams there. And sometimes it's not about it's not as straightforward for many of these new technologies. It's not straightforward. Here's a product and you can transfer it directly across and it'll work the same. For many of these products now, it's not about buying a product. It's about buying into the service, because you want to be able to understand how to use that within your healthcare system and learn how it's been developed and used over here as well. And I think that's a much longer dialogue or an ongoing dialogue that needs to happen on both sides. Additionally, the conversations I've had with many Brazilian pharmaceutical companies who are interested in engaging with the health ecosystem or the research ecosystem in the UK, it doesn't happen overnight. You can't just make it turn on a switch and suddenly it happens. You have to build those relationships. You have to build those common research themes where both sides are going to contribute, but both sides will benefit.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So we have some questions for Paraná side. So I'd like to ask for the contribution from our Scientific Innovation Director, Marcus Espinoza, together with Ramiro, please. I think Professor Jorge has some connection problems. So the question is that I'd be interested in knowing more about the main areas of research in Paraná institutions that connect academia and the healthcare industry. Also, which are the main opportunities in the state for healthcare innovation? So I'd like to invite Espinoza and Ramiro, please, if you could contribute.
I think that myself, I think that genomics is a very important issue for us now. Yeah, of course, that because we have a good and consistent system of institutions and researchers also. And also, I think that in the field of bioinformatics, we are very nice also. Jorge Edson Ribeiro and Alexandre Pascal, they are involved in a project in bioinformatics also. I think that Alexandre can talk a little bit about the opportunities that we have in this area. Alexandre, please.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ramiro, and all the opportunity to be here and talk a little bit about our work. I'm from Computer Science Department in a Federal University, and my main research in my group is bioinformatics. So you saw, for example, as very clear example today, the COVID-19, never in our humanity life, you saw very quickly and faster a vaccine appears, although it's emergential, but really in short time. This is regarding to use the bioinformatics and biological computer science and data science. Tomorrow, I will show more detailed example to try to convince how bioinformatics and biological data science is not only the future, but something that you need to work together and faster. I totally agree with Dr. Latif that talk a very quick key message that I totally agree. Of course, it's important to do research, but you need to put together with industry because the industry know where to put for the customer, and research will know very good to have basic skills and questions. For example, you saw that a very Hungarian woman researching RNA, and this technology now is very famous to use in vaccines. So how is important basic science and how is important to connect with industry? And this is what I believe with what our group believe. And tomorrow I see, I'll not give a spoiler now, but tomorrow I'll give you more and try to convince you how biological data science together with bioinformatics is something you need to talk more and could help, as Dr. Latif said, about medicine, drug discovery, healthcare, and you can work together between UK and Brazil. And as Professor Ramiro said, you have a lot of expertise in Paraná, in health and agro, and you can put together. If you work together, we can do better and more for better life and safe lives. That I think is more important today for the humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Alexandre Pascoal. We have another question here from Rogério Vaz. He is the coordination of the international relations in a philanthropic university. They have master and doctoral programs and a pediatric hospital of national reference. He asks us how to establish bilateral agreements directly with the British higher education institutions.
Is that directed at me, Liana?
Okay, would you like me to repeat?
Yes, were you asking me for the response for that?
Yeah, he asks us how to establish agreements directly with the British higher education institutions. They have master's and doctoral programs and a pediatric hospital of national reference. It's a philanthropic institution.
Sure. I think, I mean, we've got British Council colleagues on the line as well. They'll be able to certainly provide some of the details. I think the UK, as well as my embassy and consular colleagues, part of the team is the Science and Innovation Network as well. And part of their work is to try and build those science linkages between the Brazilian science base and the UK. So I would certainly direct the conversation to them in order to build those linkages. I think the second part, and this is sort of taking my government hat off and thinking about it from a scientist's perspective. Many of the relationships are built on a personal level as well. So the universities will do very much in the lines of joint agreements between the universities. But when I was, I did my PhD at University of Strathclyde. We had half a dozen Brazilian PhD students that came across because we were looking at, my area of focus was natural product chemistry. And so there was a real strength in Brazilian institutions around rainforest plants, chemicals that could be sourced from the natural resources that existed in Brazil. So if there are connections between research groups that are particularly strong, then I would let it be driven by the science rather than trying to drive it into a particular institution where there's no specific engagement or no interest to engage. People will just see the names of the universities and say, I want to work with that university. But the real benefit of the bilateral agreements will be where the groups are incentivized or motivated to work together because they see that there's real opportunity for joint working between Brazil and the UK.
Thank you so much. We have more questions here from George Lulick. He asks, is there a platform to help recognize or better direct promising basic science to scale it to applications? For example, work on structural biology targets for drugs.
I can't say that there's so within the UK what the way to explore potential platforms are where big consortia come together, where big research groups come together multiple research groups come together in order to tackle a similar problem. So and the research funders are increasingly looking at funding these big research projects. So the UK is home to an organisation called Cancer Research UK. They are the largest donor-led research funding charity in the world. It raises about £400 million per annum for research. And what they do to create that sort of platform is to fund things like grand challenges. So what they're looking for is for proposals that come from as a consortium from multiple countries, and the amount of money is tens of millions of pounds for funding for those particular projects, because they're looking to tackle a big problem. It's not like an individual research proposal. It's where a number of research groups are coming together to tackle a big problem. And the Wellcome Trust, which is the second largest philanthropic fund after Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, is also doing these big multinational funding programs. It's called the LEAP program, LEAP. And again, they're looking at how to build consortia for big projects. And if it's I don't know if Brazil participates as an external partner to the European Horizon programs, but that's also another place where big platform research programs get funded as well. Working with the UK partner, building the links and into those research groups is how you're able to then provide the input for to participate in these larger projects. But that's about making the contacts, making the connections, and things like that. I think the activities such as the Newton Fund are useful feeders. So if you're able to sort of identify things like the Newton Fund, which is a starting point, which for a bilateral between the UK and Brazil is a good starting point, but not just that shouldn't just be thinking about, here's a pot of money, let's apply and do some research and then everybody goes away. It's thinking about how do you build that strategically into a multinational opportunity that could be funded from a Wellcome Trust or from the European Union.
Thank you so much. We'll have another one here from Igor Leite. Igor says, dear Dr. Zahef, thank you for your presentation. I have been collaborating with some colleagues in the UK and developing quite a lot of research around telemedicine and telehealth, mostly based on data from Brazil. We know that, sorry, here it came down. Okay, so we know that in the pre-pandemic world, this was a sensitive subject in the UK. There was a resistance to this kind of technology. For example, companies like Babylon GP at Hand Project had difficulties to implement telemedicine in the UK. I was wondering how much this has changed or not in the aftermath of the pandemic. Is the UK government, NHS, more open to this kind of technology implementation to make healthcare more equitable, especially for remote population, for example, rural areas?
Thank you for that. That's a really good question, and I think it goes to show how the health service was so resistant to things like telehealth and telecare, because a lot of people could find excuses for not doing something. It's easy to find excuses to not do something than to change than it is to actually implement new technologies. And healthcare services are inherently conservative. And there's a statistic somewhere. I haven't seen the data behind it, but it says it usually takes about 14 years for a new product to actually become common clinical practice within the NHS. So if you think about how people operate, or you know how clinicians may operate clinics, and how they go about seeing patients, how regularly they update their training, and then new clinicians coming in who have learned new things at the university and they want to do things differently. It takes time for these things to adapt. I've been around the telehealth, telecare space for, certainly I've been watching it since 2007, and I think the pandemic has been really transformative to how telehealth and telecare, attitudes towards telehealth and telecare have changed dramatically. But that's also, you know, reflective of the fact of how everybody is now saying, well, why can't we work from home? We had the technology previously. It wasn't suddenly as if the pandemic meant that our internet got better. We had the ability to Zoom or Skype or Teams previously. It's just the environment has made it, made people realize that actually all the concerns about patient safety or about patient identity, security, patient trust really goes out the window when you have a pandemic, and people realize that actually it can be done, but it takes a substantial jerk or attack to the system that means that healthcare has to be delivered differently. within the UK, most primary care general practitioners that are the first line for seeing patients are still still using GP at hand or various tele health or telecare video conferencing approaches. Even though that GPs can now see patients, a lot of those appointments are still being seen as video calls or telephone calls online. I think it'll be interesting to see how what the safety implications are, because it had always been the view that oh, we can't see people remotely because GPs miss things, you know, unless they can see people face to face. But it's been well documented that doctors aren't able to spot many symptoms when you only have a short amount of time with a patient. You're not able to pick up many signals just with a 10-minute face-to-face. So I think the pandemic has been transformative for things like telehealth and telecare, and not just for rural, just for the ability to be able to see patients and provide services, ongoing services. I think the challenge will be whether those technologies can stick, and also whether those technologies can evolve to learn from what has been done, which is good and bad from as a consequence of the pandemic. But yeah, I think from a healthcare delivery perspective, many of the doctors, many of the health services are realizing that actually it can be done. Patient acceptability is high because patients just want to be able to see a clinician, and so a lot of the naysayers or the ones that were very conservative in their views have really gone away, and are seeing this as the new future.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to invite Dr. Jorge Edson. Dr. Jorge Edson, can you hear me? Okay, I think.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jorge Edson. So we had a previous question for Paraná side, so I'm just going to repeat here, and if you could contribute with your comments also. So the question that also Professor Alexandre Pascoal helped us to answer has to do with the main areas of research in Paraná institutions that connect academia and healthcare industry. So if you could have some comments on that, and also the main opportunities in the state for healthcare innovation.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I'm sorry about the technical problems that I'm having from the beginning. I'll try to start my video and see. Oh, cannot start my video. So, for your question, there are many opportunities here in Paraná for innovations and to contribute with the industry and the healthcare system. I can see that the genomics is a very interesting thing. So genomics is and bioinformatics is a main area of interest for Paraná, and it's a main area of interest in the industry as well. But the problem with this is that there must be bigger investment in companies that would like to invest in that for in private businesses. However, there are other opportunities, and I understand that in the medical software industry, there are lots of opportunities, mainly to collaborate with SUS for software that has the potential for interoperability. That would be an interesting thing to do. And it's also in the main agenda of the Ministry of Health and of the
many industries in the sector. So Academy is producing quite a lot in this area. We will see that tomorrow. And actually, I do understand that Professor Claudia is here also. She will talk about that. It's a main area of interest. And it's a main area of interest for the Araucária also, because it is directly related both to digital transformation and to the providing of good healthcare. So there are other things like artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is artificial intelligence, machine learning, and IoT are all very well needed in this area. IoT mainly, and we have some opportunities in Paraná. They will not be talking here, but they are working in the mainstream of software and hardware in the health tech area. So I believe these are the main things that we can say at this point. There are other, of course, there are other sectors that would be interesting to focus on, and we probably would have to understand better what are the areas in Britain that we could interact with for this to be useful in the cooperation. I don't know if this is satisfactory for your question.
Thank you, Dr. Jorge. So we have no more questions here in our chat box. So if you have any further comments or questions, you can have them now. Otherwise, we'll finish the first session of our mission. Okay, so once more, we'd like to thank you so much for joining us today for our virtual mission. Thank you so much, Mr. Latif, for your rich presentation that made us reflect about future cooperation together with the UK. Thank you, Dr. Jorge, for bringing us the overview on Paraná side. And we'd like to invite you all for tomorrow from 9:30 in the morning, that you have the session 2, that's a roundtable, talking about the role play of the universities in the ecosystem of the British and Paraná health system, the commercial opportunities in research. So we will have a great interaction together with the British and Paraná universities in a fruitful dialogue. So thank you very much for joining us today, and hope to see you all tomorrow from 9:30 on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice time. Bye-bye. Thank you, Eliane.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.